All right, family. God bless you. It's the time you've been waiting for. That's right. Senior Talk with Clara Hubbard, your resource and information show for people getting better with age. Well, no stranger to our community is one of our phenomenal community partners joining us again, Peer Plus Training and Peer Plus Education
Education.
and Training Advocates. That's right. The boss is here, no other than Phyllis Rogers. She's going to be joining me here live on Senior Talk. Tell your friends, it is National Minority Health Month. And coming up in April on the 28th, woo, let me tell you, it's going to be a packed house of phenomenal people who, more importantly, do the right thing of serving our community. So everyone stay tuned. Welcome to Senior Talk. It's the time you've been waiting for, as I already said. Tell your friends we're live, Facebook, YouTube, as well as now Twitch on Senior Talk Media. Everyone stay tuned. Well, everyone, as I said, it is National Minority Health Month, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Senior Talk with Clara Hubbard, your resource and information show for people getting better with age. As I mentioned, in our community, there is none other. She is like the black card of services for people getting better with age. If you're planning a health fair, call Peer Plus Education and Training Advocates. I don't even plan health fairs. I said, hey, call the lady that knows it all. Great connections, great community. She is joining us once again, one of our phenomenal community partners. Welcome, 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 Miss Phyllis Rogers. How are you this beautiful day?
Oh my God, Clara, you know what? You never fail. Regardless of what the day and the time is, you give the best intro, and I really appreciate
It is
that. I
my
really
pleasure.
appreciate that. I'm doing good on this end.
That's good.
I'm doing good on this end and happy to be, one of your partners. We've been partners now for what, about 5 years or so?
Yeah, about 5 years, yeah.
About 5 years.
Look, we passed the honeymoon stage.
That's right. That's right. We're married.
That's
We're
right.
married. So, yeah, thank you so much for that intro. We're getting ready for our annual event of around Minority Health Month. This is something that is celebrated all around the country in April. And so Peer Plus has been hosting this event probably about 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
But for the past few years, we've definitely had to, do it virtually. But we're still doing a good job. We're hoping that, before, the big summer hits, that we will be in the community. But until then, we are all about health and wellness. And so we follow the science. And the science is telling us right now that it's not time for us to be back inside. But that does not stop us from providing the necessary services that our community is in need of.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I can say through this period of the COVID pandemic, we didn't stop working.
No, we didn't.
We kept the phone lines open as this show has been ongoing, and we still are available to people beyond and through and at all costs. So what we want to do now, let's do a recap. You were with us back a few months ago, and we were talking about, Jesus, what a powerful, powerful dynamic of panelists you had.
That was wonderful.
Girl.
For Black History Month.
Yes,
Black
ma'am.
History. That was simply wonderful.
And we were talking about clinical trials.
Yes.
And the important for us, as I can say, to participate, And so it means a lot to really have the key partners in place. So what was that experience like? I mean, I know you got some new heavy hitters coming up, and you always come with the best. And we just also want to acknowledge you because this is Black Women's History Month.
Absolutely.
So I want to give you that accolade too, because you get it done, baby. You get it done. So when you go through your organization and look for the right information, now that we are virtual, because most of your events previous years have been in person and jam-packed. So what are the characteristics of someone that you're looking for as you're planning, your next events? Because everything is always done stellar and with class, and you have the best experts.
Well, thank you for that question. What I look for, first of all, is someone that understands the community because that's who we're talking with.
Mm-hmm.
We're reaching the community. And we have to have someone that understands that and can unfold the conversation in a way that the community can understand it.
Yes.
Because if not, we have not done a good job.
Mm-hmm.
We want to, be consistent and relevant with what is going on in health and wellness. And health and wellness, if you have a magazine, probably every 5 pages is talking to you about some kind of health that's going on. You see, about diabetes and heart disease, and now there's a lot of more attention to for women and lupus and that. And let me go back a minute. The show that you did a week ago about autism, that was awesome.
Thank you.
That was simply awesome. So I want to thank you and the lady that, I mean, she shared it and I was able to soak up all of that empathy,
Yes.
all of that information,
Yes.
that was shared. So going back to, original question, because I'm in the community and I've been around for over 20 years, as I'm having conversations with people, my brain starts to turn, oh, this person can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this person can do that.
Right.
And so then we put them all together. And what I call is make a good pot of soup. You make a good pot of soup. So somebody is going to bring the vegetables, somebody is going to bring the seasoning, and someone is going to bring, if you're going to add meat or whatever, and whatever the sauces are. So that's how I look at what we're doing. So I always want to make sure that I have some kind of relationship with the people of the panels that we bring in
Mm-hmm.
because we must feed off of each other to make this happen and for community to accept us in the work that we're doing. And this panel that's coming up in a few weeks, this is an amazing group of people.
Let me
I
tell you.
mean, these women are heavy hitters, and as you say, with it being Women's History Month, as they say, come on now, we got some of the best, the creme de la creme. So I'm just going to ask everybody to join in and come in with your pen and your pad so you can write some of that information down. And if we need to, we will circle back to try to make sure that those questions that you have are answered.
Absolutely. And let me say this. I'm very excited to have one of our other community partners and just an awesome woman joining us. Ramona, did you take off your skates to join us today?
I did. And I slid and fell. Yeah.
Right. We appreciate you. But let me say this. I am very excited for the future because we are now doing groundbreaking information to people who would normally have to pay for it or not have access.
Mhm.
Hello.
Mhm.
That's a good thing. And I can tell you there are some seniors who made comments saying, I like that person. I want to see if they'll come to my church or, we're still doing Zoom presentations. So as I can tell everyone, you don't want to deny yourself an opportunity to look at our programming here at Senior Talk Media and find out what you need. If we don't have the answer, we'll find it for you. And so it is so critical. So as we were saying, while you were in the virtual green room, Ramona, Phyllis and I went back a few moments and we talked about the February engagement. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
It was loaded. And literally, we're almost in the second phase of that series, pretty much, taking some of those disparities out and then putting them to another platform on April 28th. So what would be your feedback and take back from being a part of that successful event for Black History Month?
Yes. So it was a great event. And thank you, Clara, for having us be part of it. And, Miss Phyllis, you don't give yourself enough credit. So this soup that she's talking about, y'all, it's that soup that sticks to your bones when you're feeling achy, when it's cold outside. Like, it's some good soup. And she has definitely been a connector, not only in our community in the Chicagoland area and the Indiana area, but across this country. There are so many folks who are considered the subject matter experts in many different spaces.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned Miss Phyllis or Peer Plus, and they're like, oh, yeah, I've worked with her. But, outside of that, it's just knowing the impact that she's had on folks, again, who we can touch, folks in our family, folks in our community. So Ms. Phyllis, thank you for continuing to put together such a good group and a good cohort of folks, that can actually distill information that a lot of, doctors and physicians and clinicians sometimes keep too high level, right? And they don't really get to that meat, right? So you got some good meat in that soup and that stew that you put together that folks can walk away with and feel armed with information that helps them make their own decisions. We're not trying to sell people on anything, but let me let you know what you need to know so that you can pick that right path for you and your healthcare journey. So thank you both for letting me be a part of it.
Let me say this, and as we all know, every Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, we all have gumbo, don't we? Every Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, we having gumbo. It's a little early, but we having gumbo, stirring it up again to bring out the best result and the best impact. So what I want to do, ladies, is Ramona, we're still going to tap into trials because it's still ongoing. I just want to play a recap of that Janssen audio, that video that you shared with me before. And then we're going to talk more about our panelists and the specific direction that we want people to be prepared to receive. So everyone stay tuned. We're still here live on Senior Talk with Clara Hubbard.
People of Color and Clinical Trials, a History. Clinical trials are the studies conducted by pharmaceutical companies, academic organizations, research hospitals, or others to evaluate or test the safety of a potential new medicine, called an investigational drug, and evaluate if it is effective in treating certain health conditions. Factors such as gender, race, ethnicity, age, or lifestyle can cause disease to affect people in different ways. These factors can also determine if a medicine is safe and effective for use in different groups. For this reason, a diverse group of people should be represented in clinical research to evaluate if investigational medications are safe and effective for the people that they are intended to help. However, many clinical trials today are made up of as much as 80% white participants and do not include enough people of different genders, ages, races, and ethnicities. Black people and other people of color are often not represented. We believe one reason for this is that the healthcare system as a whole needs to get better at removing barriers clinical trials participants often face. This can include helping people understand how clinical trials work, building trust in the process, and addressing logistical burdens. Understanding history. There is a deep-rooted sense of mistrust of clinical trials among Black communities that can, in part, be traced back to 1932 with what has become known as the Tuskegee Syphilis Study. This study is one of the most well-known circumstances in U.S. history that led to medical mistrust in the Black community, but it is not the first or only example. This study involved 600 Black men, some who had syphilis and some who did not. The organization conducting the trial did not inform the men what the trial was studying or the safety risk involved. They also did not provide any treatment for syphilis to trial participants years later when treatment became available. Today, recruiting people to participate in a clinical trial without letting them know what is being studied and what the safety risks are is against the law. In Phase 3 clinical studies, we compare the investigational drug against the current or existing medicine called the standard of care. The way forward. But we still have a lot of work to do to listen to, educate, and include diverse communities in order to restore trust in clinical studies among Black communities and other people of color. We are working hard to overcome that mistrust and educate people about the process of participating in clinical trials so we can continue to develop medicines that may address health conditions. In our next video, we'll discuss safety and informed consent in clinical trials. Thank you for watching. Learn more at www.researchincludesme.com.
Clara, that was wonderful.
How thorough. And
Yeah.
that is the first thing that comes up when we mention trials in a community environment. We go back to that, not knowing that the sciences and the energies have now changed, and there's more research and there's signage that you have to be approved of. They were pushed into something without their knowledge.
Sure.
So how do you respond to that video to our listening and viewing audience, Ramona?
Yeah, so first off, I think it's always important that we acknowledge what has happened, right? We can't
Mhm.
skip over it. We
Great
can't,
statement.
act like it never happened. We must acknowledge it and really have conversations and dialogues with folks who are aware of such. Maybe their grandparents lived in that time. Maybe they just heard, some colloquial, oh, this is what I knew what happened. But let's have dialogue. Let's talk about fears that are wrapped around that history because that's real valid history. But then
Mhm.
let's talk about how things have changed since then. Let's talk about how it's more folks like myself or Miss Lisa Lewis, who's going to be part of the panel discussion in these pharma spaces that are driving research where we were not included before. And even that is progress. And even that is commitment to making sure that rights of people who do participate in clinical trials who look like me, yes, I'm going to make sure your rights and the rights of others are protected in this space. But I think we just have to start having a conversation and allowing people to express, where there are fears, where there is distrust, right?
Mhm.
Because there are valid reasons for lack of trust. But let's have the dialogue and the honesty and an exchange, and then we can talk about why clinical trials is important and why we need to be represented. But we can't skirt over, Tuskegee and all the other examples that we're
Right.
aware of where our bodies have been taken advantage of for the advantage of science.
What's exciting and that you said too is I was listening, I was thinking about from that time period, just think of how many more dynamic African Americans we have represented in science who are now doctors, male and female, who've taken a step to be the charge for our better quality of care to represent us when we
Yes.
cannot be present. So that's a big to do. That's a big
PhD,
yeah.
nurses. Like there's so many people in these spaces that look like us that have different roles and responsibilities, but collectively, we are supporting this change that's definitely was needed.
Absolutely. So Miss Phyllis,
Yes, ma'am.
let me find this. You got, I promise you have a dynamic group of presenters on April 28th.
Yes.
Let me tell people now, please go to I'm doing too much. I want them to go to, let me find, I'm working this, here we go. I want them to go to your website
Yes.
that they can start registering. Now
Yes.
I'm going to pull up the flyer so you can just do the information on who are the hitters and what the impact is going to be. So give me 1 second to bring that up to our, let's see what we got. All right, it's a little small, but let's bring up who we got and what's going to be happening here.
Well, we have an awesome team of women that have agreed to join us and to do their due diligence for Minority Health Month. And some of these ladies, they've been in the trenches a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not brand new. It's just all that we're all coming together for this day and to unfold this information. Ramona, I'll let you talk a little bit about Lisa, Miss Lisa, if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah, but I definitely know all the panelists. So yes, Ms.
Yes.
Lisa Lewis, her and I, we have the pleasure of working together within Janssen to support diversity efforts in our research and development. Lisa is the director over everything that we're doing in the oncology, the cancer space. So that's lung cancer, that's prostate cancer, multiple myeloma, but spaces where, again, if we look at the data, we see that Black people are hit the hardest. We see that brown people are impacted very hard by those conditions. And so again, understanding how can we use our research and our drug development to change some of the outcomes that patients are having in those spaces. So excited for her to be here. She lives in New York, but again, our roles are global. So we're all kind of like ad hoc around the country, but, really leaning into our commitment to, our community.
Mm-hmm.
And, Miss Peggy Riggins, I'm gonna keep going, Miss Phyllis. Miss
Okay.
Peggy Riggins, I remember her my early days as a pharmacist. She was a mentor for me. And,
Yes.
she has definitely gone through a personal journey that has, added to her professional experience. And now she's all about empowerment, whether we're talking about health or, life coaching. She is that woman. So I'm super excited to share the stage with her. And then Ms. Dale Kane, her and I connected in the breast cancer space, but to talk about nutrition,
Yeah.
because it's not enough for us to talk about how do we treat, but we need to get down to the core about how do we prevent. And, again, happy to be sharing the stage with her because she has been that voice in our community for quite a while before this became a thing that everybody wanted to be a part of.
Yes.
So Miss Phyllis, again, kudos to you. I bow down for pulling together such a great roster. And I look forward to the dialogue that we're going to share. And with, the viewers here, please, ask questions, engage,
Sure.
correct us if we say something that you don't like. It is an open space. It is definitely, we're trying to make this a bi-directional, not us just preaching up here on the pulpit, but actually, hey, tell us what you need and tell us what you want.
If I
with
could,
with that, when I started to put the panel together, I wanted someone in each area that I knew could give their expertise, and as I say, to be able to talk to those that are listening in and to the community. And the one thing we know is that all of these women, they work with a passion from their heart as I. And Peggy is just awesome. I can't even say enough about Peggy. And then to have Dale Kane on there, who has a story, as she was saying, that began around breast cancer and then had to change the way her diet was. And so everything that's on there, they all blend right in together because that nutrition impacts everything else that is there. Peggy is going to talk about hypertension and diabetes.
Talk to me. Yes, ma'am.
And so, how our food impacts all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Dale, with nutrition, and then with Miss Lisa, that's going to talk about, okay, so if you've been diagnosed with this, let us find a research that maybe you can get in.
Yes.
That would not only help you, but to help the generation that's below you. That's coming after you. I'm sorry, that's coming after you to be able to do that.
Let me say this to both of you. I totally am living that experience. I took it upon myself to make my appointment for my annual everything yesterday. I just said, having lost a mother at 42 to heart disease and my father at 58, if I had a way to measure some preventive, I went in. And the doctor, you just don't know. She said, it's amazing that you're here. And I'm honored because she lost her father at 34 and her brother at 39. And she and I were almost the same age. And she said, I'm just commended that you came in because we do have things. Some things people always say, well, it's just in the family. It's hereditary. No, they don't have to be. That's the thing we have to get out of our minds. Everything is not hereditary. So, of course, myself, I am making a lifestyle change. I'll be bringing them on in May. There's a group that I partner with called Sisters for Self-Care. And we check in with each other. We're all on, a healthy regimen. I just had to make a lifestyle change. I'm not on a diet. I'm making a lifestyle change. So we will be bringing on people that you mentioned, like Dale Kane, who definitely has a great presentation on healthy cooking. And healthy cooking does not mean sacrificing taste,
No.
We got to put those things in our mind. And of course, when you mentioned Peggy Riggins, I just call her the truth. Boom.
Yes.
Yes.
The truth. Boom. She is awesome. She cheerleads for everyone. It's so humble.
Yes, she does.
And that is the great part about what we're doing. So let's talk. We have 4 disparities. Am I correct? We're doing hypertension, diabetes, cancer. Are we missing one?
No, well, then we're going to do the piece there just about research and just to pull it all together.
Yeah. And that's the ironic thing. And if you could speak on this, Ramona, we are now finding that diabetes is an umbrella to something else or vice versa. These disparities are all playing into each other,
Yes.
Especially when it comes to, I was on a call or did an interview with Steve Sasak from Great Lakes Clinical Trial. And he said, Clara, Alzheimer's is almost tied to diabetes. And I'm thinking, what? But they all are related to each other. So one thing that I know that I'm doing, I am working to control my blood pressure to keep me at an even keel at best, for some of the things that may come up. But how would you address that, Ramona? Because I'm thinking, I never knew that. I'm learning about it. And I'm seeing some people one person has one thing, they may likely have the other and not know it.
Yeah. It's chronic inflammation in our body. So again, whether we're talking about cancers, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, it's our body being under stress and having to fight. and that rears its ugly head in different ways. And that goes back to the core of how do we prevent these things? Yes, some of it is tied to genetics and hereditary, but we can shift it if we're conscious of our diet, if we're conscious of, these negative energy people that we have in our lives, that maybe they just need to sit down, or maybe we need to go for a walk, right? Or there are different ways that we can kind of control the levels of stress. And I think it's very much so important now, because look at this world that we're living in. We're kind of easing out the pandemic, fingers crossed. But every time we turn on the news, there's something. Every time we hear about, a girlfriend's family member, like some less than 6 degrees of separation of violence occurring,
Yes.
in our spaces, that is all traumatic. We talk about PTSD from a military army standpoint, but shoot, me living in Woodlawn, Shirley living in Inglewood, we go through PTSD every day. Every time we send our kids outside and we pray that they make it back home safely, whether it's in our community or being out in communities with others, that is all stress. So we just have to be conscious of how do we just limit and control what we can control, because there are some things that we can't, or at least overnight that we can't control, but like nutrition, me drinking more water instead of drinking that, Coca-Cola that I love, or that, RC Cola, like I'm old school. But, and maybe me, slowing down on how much bacon I'm eating, because I love bacon, but understanding the impact and the implications that it have in our already stressed environments that we live in. We can connect even, maternal mortality, about how are we having Black women die in childbirth, but we forget to recognize that pregnancy is traumatic on a woman's body, right? So again, the more that we can kind of connect the dots, and I'm so glad that the gentleman from Great Lakes mentioned that it's all connected. It's chronic inflammation, but it's driven by stress and driven by stressors. So we just got to, rally around each other and just do better, and force this world to do better upon us.
Yes.
And may I add, just everything that Ramona just said, when you look at the impact that we're all going through now, we've always had stress, but what we've been going through for over the past 2 years has been a lot. Has been a lot. And then everybody came inside and everybody became a chef. Everybody started to, to prepare all these beautiful meals, and, they're all over social media. And then we started to see the numbers for diabetes and for hypertension, they started to escalate.
Mm-hmm.
And then no one's talking about what that impact may have on down the line. People will say, well, the doctors told me that I'm near being a type 2 diabetic. Well, okay, then let's start to take some steps and measures, to get that under a handle. So you want, because it's not a fun job, to have to deal with diabetes on a daily basis. That's hard. That's hard.
And I want to say this. You just gave me something that I'm going to ask all of us on our gumbo call tomorrow to think about. As we go into April or May being Mother's Day,
yes,
let's think about the woman in total. We just passed Women's History Month. Now we're in Black Women's History Month.
Yes.
But Mother's Day is every day, and it does not stop. And we need to look at the vices that will help us to de-stress. I tell you this, I'm going to be honest, since we friends and we family, I literally last week, I just kept feeling so much tension. And my husband said, have a seat and sit down. Do you know that is the hardest thing for me to do? Because I'm always looking, if I got 5 minutes, I need to be typing, I need to be returning the email. And I did not sit down. When I sat down, he looked, he said, how long? I'm going to see how you can sit. But when I did finally get there, I was like, oh.
Yeah. You get to breathe.
My body was relieved from that, and I didn't exhale. I was like, oh my gosh. I was doing that to myself. And as you mentioned, with us looking at social media and all of those dynamics that are happening around our country, we take them on. We become a part of the situation. We become that family member that we're viewing who may have lost a loved one or something tragic happens. And sometimes I had to just take it off and cut it off just for me personally, because I just know what my life is like. And I don't want to really take it on, but I will pray for the situation at hand. So knowing that we're coming up on April 28th, ladies, what are your closing comments? I mean, it's going to be stellar. So everyone, please go to peerpluscares.org to register. I also want to send a special thank you to my cousin Sharon Childs in St. Louis. She is sharing this with the National Baptist Convention, their Facebook page. So I'm very excited. Thank you, cousin. We appreciate you. And to many others who are watching, she said, I got that link. I like the last event that you shared. So let me pass it on again. So more connections are coming. So ladies, we're closing, but what are your remarks today? We have to revisit this again, but let's really take our gumbo call tomorrow. I'm thinking and think about women, health, de-stressors, and all the things that we could do for ourselves, because self-care is not being selfish. And we got to learn it. I have to learn it. I still do. We all must do that. So go ahead, Miss Phyllis. Ramona, you're going to close us out, and then we're going to close out with the Honorable Phyllis Rogers.
Yes. So I'm going to say we need to lean into what your cousin is doing for you in St. Louis. We really got to help and support each other, hold each other accountable. Like your husband did, tell you to sit down. You probably had to put like a bunch of encyclopedias on you to keep you still, but we have to look at our loved ones and recognize how can we help? How do we intervene to take some of the weight and the pressure off? Because we do shoulder a lot. I have to share something with your audience. Like it's April, right? And so automatically I'm like, ooh, they're about to turn off my utilities, because I'm so conditioned to be in the mindset that back in the day when I ain't had no money, I couldn't pay my utilities, and April was when they turned them off, right? But why am I still stressing when I'm not even in a position to, that's not an issue anymore, right? Yeah. But again, PTSD, but the more that we, wrap our arms around each other and support each other, it lessens the load and it makes us all feel comfortable and safe to just be present. So thank you, cousin in St. Louis. And Miss Phyllis, I'm gonna kick it to you.
Well, I want to thank that cousin in St. Louis also, because this is our goal, is to reach as many people as we possibly can. And the only way to do that is to have a collective member of people to make sure that information gets out. Clara, I want to thank you for this opportunity, as usual, to be able to speak about the upcoming event, and to Ramona for being a big major part of what it is that we're doing, and to our sponsors, to Janssen and to AstraZeneca and to Northwestern and to everyone else that's going to pitch in and be with us on that day. And we want people to know that every day we get a chance to make a first start.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to, as you said a moment ago, you're not dieting. You're just going to make some lifestyle changes.
Yes.
And those few little baby steps, before you know it, you will see that you're walking and things will begin to look different. And I thank you for sharing with us that you did a complete physical yesterday. That was something back in the day when Tom Joyner morning show was on. They would have that day where we all knew that it was time to go to the doctor because Tom Joyner would make that known.
Yeah.
Everybody was looking forward to that. I mean, the doctor's office was flooding because people followed what Tom Joyner would say. That was an impact that we grew up with. Where somebody said, "This is what would they say? Today is a doctor day," or something like that.
That's not a bad idea. I said that's not a bad idea. We can kick that off again. And as we know, coming up on the 16th is National Healthcare Decision Day.
Or maybe we need to, let me write. Are you jotting that down, Ramona?
I am.
I mean, there's just some healthcare decisions that we need to make. So we got, and that's one of the days that's coming up, and that's on that's an annual day on the 16th, whatever day of the week it is. It's always April 16th is National Healthcare Decision Day. Wow. So we can lock in and be present. And I have a group that I'm working with to present that I'll be sharing with on tomorrow. They're doing one on Saturday evening on the 16th. Okay. So we got room to grow. So
thank you, Clara. I really appreciate it. And as Clara said, please go into peerpluscares.org and register. We want you to be on that presentation that we're going to have and get some of the best information that we can provide.
And let me say this, I have a new term that I'm using to close out my show. I was at a performance this Saturday for my brother, Richard Gallion. He had a play called 1800 versus 2020. Extremely powerful. But one of his statements is going to be mine, and I asked him if I can adopt it. It says, the day you were born, you look like your parents. The day you die, you look like your decisions.
Wow. I recently saw that. Wow.
That's right. That being said is enough. I definitely took it back and I understood. Looking like your decisions. So now we're more careful and I'm more, honestly, more in tune. I went to a baseball game yesterday and when we left, I went and had salad. And my husband, yeah, I wanted salad and a glass of wine, but that was it. And I felt great because that's my change now for me, for the better, you know. So we're going to be introducing Sisters for Self-Care to both of you women. They'll be joining us regularly in the month of May. My sister Terry, Coach T, is amazing.
Love it.
And has a great delivery of her recovery from having high blood pressure for many years.
Wow.
So it's been consistent for over 18 months, just doing some changes and changing her life for the better. So she said, we're going to do life together. And I said, that's what I intend. So I'm on the path. So I'm Sisters for Self-Care as well. So ladies, let me just close out. I want to show your video, Miss Phyllis, because you are the architect of this great dynamic of what we got going on. I can't wait to have gumbo in the morning with you. And Ramona, thank you so much for your time. Everyone, we're going to close out with a video from one of our community partners, none other than Peer Plus Education and Training Advocates. God bless you. Thank you for making us a part of your day, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.